Hey, Redcasters, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos. Go Big Red.
Welcome to the Go Big Redcast, the Husker Fan Sports Show.
Welcome to the Go Big Redcast. I'm your host, David Gaspers, and I'm with Honky.
Congratulations to Natalie Potts, who won her 8th Freshman Conference of the Week award, women's basketball, and became the Conference Freshman of the Year as well, with Britt Prince coming in next season, and Markowski, who won it 2 years ago, so she'll be a senior next year. They should have a hell of a team coming back.
Yeah, absolutely. Another tourney team. That's just what we do around Nebraska, right, Rob?
I guess that's my cue for a hot take, and quite frankly, that's about where I'm at tonight. I was already in my pajamas getting ready to go to bed and watch the Warriors play, and I just threw a hat on and came downstairs, and I'll leave it up to Redcasters to figure out if I'm wearing pants or not.
We already have a good live viewership, so maybe this works. I don't know, but as long as the Warriors don't play the Celtics anytime soon, right, Rob?
I don't even think the Warriors played the Celtics.
That's true. It was a
come on, Dave. This is a Husker podcast. Let's get back on track here.
Right. Yes. I know I have to give you crap occasionally, though. All right. But not last but not least, Boomer. What's up, man?
Well, I am wearing pants, so no concerns there. And just excited to be back here. I know we kind of had a quiet week last week, but it was a good loss week for us. So I think we shut up the podcast NET rankings.
Yeah. We were debating about doing a show last week, but then the loss to Ohio State hit, and we're like, it would just be a bad show. But it was a good loss
after that.
So yeah. we're okay, right? So
yeah, we know all about good losses, Dave. At Michigan State, their podcast must be going crazy with all the bad or good losses they've had. Although great losses. But they did have a good win tonight, so I don't know if they'll
NET now. So
yeah, they might drop because of it. But
that's right.
Good job,
right. The magic sauce of Tom Izzo is to not actually lose big or win big or whatever, right? It's almost impossible. Well, I think we'll spend most of the show talking about Nebraska basketball, which is a really fun thing to do, right, guys? We have not had this type of season in a long time. Maybe this is the start of something that will be sustained. Maybe we can talk a little bit about that, Honky, not just where we're at right now in this season, but what this looks like going forward under Fred Hoiberg and the leadership of Trev Alberts in that athletic department. Talk a little baseball. I mean, we got baseball's off to a hot start, 7-3 in another sweep down in South Carolina. And then there's been some rules changes in college football, so we'll do a little scarlet-colored glasses and talk about how that might impact Dylan Raiola and the coaching staff come this fall.
And if any Redcasters have questions along the way, shoot them in too. We'll try to fit them in. It's going to be a fun little hour here. So
yeah, I would encourage everyone to fire off some questions. We already got 50-some people, and I think that'll grow. So let's have a good live show, guys. Hey,
let's do it.
And hi, Little Reds, Josh Karen fan club. I just want you to know you're going to get all the Robness tonight.
All right. That sounds
excellent.
Good. All right, let's start off with a little Neebrasketball, and let's talk about where Nebraska sits right now, according to the bracket matrix, which collects all the different various brackets across the web. I think there's 125 of them out there right now. Nebraska's in every single one of them, floating around a 10 seed, 9 seed type action. Rob, we got one game to go. Michigan on Sunday. We had a successful Sunday victory on Senior Day against Rutgers. Never really in doubt. The Scarlet Knights did hang around there a little bit, but we had Casey help finish them off there in the second half. Where do you think this team is right now?
I think they're exactly where they're supposed to be. At this point, we lost a game on the road to Ohio State. That was disappointing. I don't even really want to talk about that loss because it was frustrating, to say the least. And it was frustrating because the team played horribly. The refs did everything they could to make sure that they weren't going to
Rob and the Big Ten refs are not friends. Let's say that, folks.
I will literally fist fight that high stepping mother. Oh, sorry. Yeah. But it's just nice to see the way they bounced back. They came home. It was senior night. They showed up. They showed out. I don't think they ever trailed in that game from beginning to end.
We did.
Even when Rutgers started to make a little bit of a comeback, it never really was like in doubt that the Huskers were going to win the game. I think they got within 10 at some point or something like that.
6 actually at one point.
Was it 6? Yeah, but not for long.
Yeah.
I don't think. Yeah. And I mean, Casey just took that game over at one point, scored something like 10 straight points on his own.
Yep.
And and it's great to see him just out there playing that way. His dad was in the crowd. So I mean, as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to tournament talk, I mean, they're in. You're not going to be a 9-10 seed and then all of a sudden just drop out unless like a bunch of teams end up just getting really upset in the tournament, like Minnesota ends up winning the Big Ten tournament or something like that. I mean, it's
I hear you, Rob.
Yeah.
You're going there to the point of like we're not like we're not just battling for seating position, right? But
No.
but we are comfortably in right now. There's got to be at least 7 or 8 teams below us on the line. So Boomer, I mean, I don't want to jinx this, but it does feel like this team is going to make it with regardless of what happens against Michigan on Sunday. It looks like we're going to get a double bye in the Big Ten tournament. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Because it does actually vault you into the quarterfinals, right, of the tournament on Friday night, which might be actually harder to get one extra victory in. But it's not going to be a bad loss. We know how these quad rankings work now, don't we?
Yeah, and that's the key. Is just just have great losses is apparently the key. You don't actually have to win any games, is what we're learning from Michigan State and Wisconsin. Is you can pretty much lose everything. Well, heck, didn't we were looking at it ourselves the other day? As like Auburn is like what 1 in I don't know how many it is.
1 in 7 in quad one wins,
and they're 6th in the NET last time we looked. So yeah, just
keep.
But so just good losses are where it's at apparently for NET rankings. Yeah, right now Nebraska is in everybody's bracket. It's there again. But like you said, Dave, it is jinxable, and you'd hate to see him go out to Michigan and lose. I mean, that's a Michigan team that probably shouldn't be playing for much of anything. But it is their last game at home. It's senior night there, and you never know what'll happen there. I think it's an 11 a.m. game too, actually. So
yeah,
I don't know how motivated that crowd will be, if anyone will even be there. So. You don't want to lose something like that. It's just not a great look going in. And then depending on what happens, how it shakes out, you could be as high as a 3 seed and get a double bye, or you might, be a little lower than that and have to play sooner than you think. And if you beat Michigan, I don't think it matters a whole lot what you do in the Big Ten tournament. If you lose to Michigan, then it does. You'd really want to get an extra win out of that just to help secure things. And that's what Nebraska needs to do is, I've talked about this kind of thing before, is just eliminate those variables. Don't leave it up to a committee to have to judge where you're at. Just make it so they can't realistically keep you out.
Yeah. I would argue over what seed we're going to be.
Exactly.
Not over
you
if
beat
we should
Michigan,
be seeded.
maybe win a game in the Big Ten tournament against whomever. Hopefully you'll get a team that's kind of on a little bit of a run, but they're running out of gas at that point. And then then you're in fine shape. I mean, at that point, they can't realistically say, well, Nebraska didn't do enough or anything like that. But if you lose the last 2 games, then you're kind of leaving it up to chance again, depending on what happens with everybody else. Yeah. Because this can happen in a bubble. You've got to worry about all the other teams, the St. John's and Utahs of the world. What are they doing? Who's going to steal a bid and all that. But Nebraska is right now in a position where they can take advantage of this. There's a door open. Just take it.
They control their own destiny, Boomer.
Yes, exactly. Nebraska ball team hasn't done that in a very long time.
Well, Honky,
go ahead and do it.
Let's and we can take a deep dive into the net rankings if you want. I think that might be enjoyable.
I'd rather take a deep dive into the honk palm. I'm still not really understanding.
Yes, there we go. That's great.
We got 107 people watching us right now. What the hell, people?
Yeah.
Don't you have something better to do on a Wednesday night?
Nebraska
don't,
basketball brings them out, Rob.
It does.
Everybody's
It does.
excited.
I'm just kidding.
And they
Please
want to
stick
hear
around,
about
everybody.
Please stay. Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
just
don't
please
listen to
stay.
Rob.
Please stay.
Find anything
Well,
better.
and that's even a future topic, is that how cool is it that basketball can bring out the numbers right now and people are interested in that, and it gives football a little bit of a break. But that's a conversation maybe for later. But I think everything that Boomer and Rob said up to this point, I'm 95% sure that I think we're in right now at 21 wins. And no matter, even if we lost, we'd be 11-9 in conference, we'd be 2 above. But win the Michigan game, get it for all the reasons of finishing 22 wins, finishing 3rd or 4th in the conference, finishing 4 above 500 in the conference, get another away win. All those things are important. I think you do that, and you're probably going to get in. You're probably an 8 seed. Let's call it an 8 seed. Then what does the Big Ten tournament do with the double bye? I think each additional win you get in there could take you down a seed in the NCAA tournament. So if you start as an 8 and you win 1 game, I think we're a 7. If you win 2 games, you make it all the way to the championship game, I think we're probably a 6 seed. If you win it all, I think we're a 5 seed, maybe a 4 seed if the right things happen. That is literally, but I'm talking ceiling at that point, right? I mean, we hear
you're starting to sound like me in our last show.
I'd say we're probably about a 4 to 5.
Now we're going to start losing viewers because they're going, God,
oh yeah,
just kidding.
No, I'm just breaking down where we're at. I think we're about an 8 if we win this weekend. If we don't, I think we could be, and we don't win in the Big Ten tournament, I still think we're in, but I think we're in probably as a 9, 10, 11, depending on how things play out.
Yeah.
So basically, I just said we're anything from a 4 to 11. I mean, there's my crack.
Just stretch yourself there, huh?
Prediction
like that.
Yeah.
You know what? At least you're being honest. That's a lot better than a lot of these other crap analysis.
So let's talk about that, I guess, Rob. So I mean, we've noticed that the net, at least for Nebraska, has kind of settled in the low 40s.
43, I think, is what I saw it. But
right, we've been criticizing that Michigan State can't move off that 22 to 24 line on the net forever for whatever reasons. I think, the thing with the committee, what you hear the experts say is that you rarely move up that much if you're winning in the tournament. And it may help someone who's on the bubble who needs that win, but your resume is generally made already right now.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in Nebraska's case, I think getting a neutral site win could help. So I don't disagree with Honky that winning 1 game in Minneapolis could move us up a spot. But it's difficult for that committee. Let's hypothetically say, to Honky's point, that we are in the championship game on Sunday. We'll be the last game played before the selection committee goes on air on CBS.
You mean on St. Patrick's Day? That's right.
On St. Patrick's Day. They won't have that much flexibility to keep on moving us around.
No,
whether we win or lose, we might have already been locked in on whatever seed they want to give us.
And it may come down to this, where they're looking at it and maybe 2 or 3 Big Ten teams are interchangeable in the bracket.
That'd be a best case scenario, Rob.
Like they have us, they have us at let's say they have us in the 8-9, which is the worst case scenario I think we possibly could be. There's, from a tournament perspective, to win a game, I hate it. I'd rather be an 11 seed playing a 5. All right, so that's
6.
just
11
or 6,
11-6.
I'm sorry, whatever, Dave. Anyway, my point being is that there may be 1 Big Ten team that they have sitting on the 5 line and us on the 11 line, for example, right, or the 6 line or whatever. We could be interchangeable. They're
not going to drop that team that far back. That's the problem, Rob.
Well, I'm just saying, I'm just trying to make a point, Dave, and my point is
I don't understand.
If the Huskers win the Big Ten tournament, they could possibly get moved up from being like an 8 seed to like a 5 seed, right? Maybe the team they beat in the championship game gets moved.
They'll need a plan to do that before that game tips off.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
That they're going to move them up to here.
But they'll know who that.
They're going to.
But they'll know.
So I'm just saying, and that's hard, right? I mean, they'll be at that point have been deliberating in a room for hours and hours and days, and suddenly to be able to bump everyone else down on the line to move the last team up, they probably aren't going to do that.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying it's like one team.
From a random question, is that good for the Big Ten the way we schedule this so tight, or should the Big Ten consider moving the tournament time a little bit? Do you think?
And others do play on Saturday. Play on Saturday night. You get the big window, the TV window, because it's on CBS right before Selection Sunday is, and so it's the last one on essentially, and it's ready to go, right? So the bump you get in notoriety would be significant. It's almost like getting a primetime game in the tournament, and you've got Casey, getting profiled and all that type of stuff, right? So there's an advantage from that, but seeding wise, it's probably a disadvantage. So
and that kind of sucks because games we're supposed to be, we're told that games matter. And so you win games, and you'd like to see that be reflected in a seeding kind of situation. I mentioned
games matter.
I mentioned
back to November.
Well, sure, but what I'm getting at is from a ceiling standpoint. Like I said, the potential of being a 5 or a 4. If you go literally win the conference championship, you win that, and you're sitting that's 4 more wins from now. You're at 25-9. If that gets you a 6 seed and doesn't move you up any more than that, that's pretty terrible for winning the Big Ten and having that kind of record and being on that kind of a win streak at the end of the season. So, they have to be able to accommodate at some point for just winning games. But in general, and that's not a Kool-Aid thing. Now let's be realistic. Okay, well, let's just win the next game, right? Let's just win the game at Michigan and finish the season 22-9. 12-8 in conference, 4 above 500, top 4 guaranteed, maybe top 3 depending on how things play out. We're in, right? This is all the concerns we had 6 years ago, and we have that stuck in the back of our head where we were a 4 seed. That was a different Big Ten and a different season. So we're in winning that game. But how we do in that conference, I still like my -1 for each additional win. I think if you get 1 win, I think you're a 7 seed. Ryan made a good point. Earlier, I saw it up there that he'd rather be a 10 seed than versus a 9 or 8. The analytics, Ryan, would agree with you on that you're better off being a 10 or an 11 seed historically and making it further than what an 8-9 seed is. But at the end of the day, we're talking about doing something. Yeah, we're talking about doing something that Nebraska's never done just to get into those analytics. That means you won a game. So, those 10 and 11 seeds have gone further. The analytics of that, those are all teams that have done something we've never done as a program.
Yeah, I would love to see the winning percentage of a 8 seed or a 9 seed in the first round compared to a 10 seed or an 11 seed. I actually think your odds of winning an 8-9 is better than if you're a 10 seed or an 11 seed. Now, a 10 does get you to play the 2 seed. I don't know if there's 3 ones that are pretty clear here, right? We have UConn, Purdue, and
Houston, maybe.
And Houston are pretty much locked.
And I've seen Tennessee kind of being the 4th one.
Yeah, and I think Arizona can clearly still get that. They would prefer Arizona because they would be already out west, and Arizona needs to
win out
below that. I think eventually, so I think Arizona could still easily get that 1 seed out there. So yeah, I'm more worried about winning the first game. And honestly, again, look, are we afraid of a 1 seed? We took down one of them already. I can only imagine the narrative if we're playing on a Sunday afternoon on CBS, and we're the 9 seed Nebraska Cornhuskers, and they've already taken down, Purdue, and now they get a shot at UConn. How much TV exposure we would have on that, right? And
just give us Omaha. Let us play in Omaha for Christ's sakes. Win a couple games in the
it'd be amazing.
Win a couple games in the Big Ten tournament, get into Omaha, and I like our chances there.
Yeah.
It's all about television product here, committee. So make that happen.
Yeah. When's the last time all 4 of us? When's the last time all 4 of us were drinking Kool-Aid at the same time about one Husker sport?
When's the last time Husker basketball has been in this situation for us to even have that conversation? So
since we started the podcast, never.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is our first tournament of the podcast, if they make it. Wow, that's kind of pop some champagne corks for that, I guess, huh, guys?
Well, Honky will be in town for the tournament, hopefully. So
Yes, this is totally ruining Honky's trip out of here, folks. Honky comes out here for every opening first round of the tournament, and he's a little hard to determine when he wants to travel because he doesn't know when Nebraska is going to play,
and because, and this is how little I've paid attention to March Madness in terms of scheduling in the past. I'm scheduled to go to Price is Right at the Leeds Center with my wife on that Thursday night. And then I was like, oh, crud. I think I'm already passing on that. I'm just not going to do it. And I'm probably going to be heading out to Denver, and I'll just make it up to her some other way. So the best way for me,
you'll take her on a trip to a couple. You'll take her on a trip to a couple more stadiums that are out of the way on one of your next road trips. To
this summer's the Alaska trip in Washington and Oregon. I'll take her to Corvallis.
You should find her the high school stadium that Mark Schlereth played at before going to Idaho. That's what you should do. She would love that. She would love.
I'm sure she'd appreciate that. So. But yeah, it's great right now. I love obviously the following we have right now on the show right now is I think people are genuinely excited too. And that's a great sign. It's been a fun team to watch. It's been a tough team to watch in terms of, the toughness of Alec and Hoiberg and some of the local guys, some of the things that these teams have been missing. We've had some talent the last few years. We've had some guys go pro, in an odd way with like Delano and McGowan's and stuff. We've had guys go pro, but those teams weren't good. And I've been told by a number of really good basketball guys, you have to have NBA talent on your team. I don't know that we do this year, but this team just really plays well. And we asked a question on social media about a week ago, and it was, who's the MVP? And immediately, in the first 5 minutes, we have 10, 12 responses. And I think in those first 10 or 12 responses, there was 8 different people mentioned. One of them being the fans and one of them being Fred, but also just throughout the team.
That's great.
It was, and then somebody would step in and really be hardcore on somebody. Oh, it's definitely Gary. You can't imagine this team without Gary. And I'm like, sure, I can. It would be hard to imagine it without Gary. Now take Mast off the court. Imagine the team without Mast. Now imagine it without Bryce Williams. I mean, it is a whole list of things that, any one of those guys, and they've all stepped up big in different games. So it's really impressive how this team has done this without any one star. Casey gets a lot of credit and he's fun to watch, but there's been games where he's been completely taken out and we've still won.
Yeah. So I think Casey's a great character and he's a fan favorite, obviously. I really did appreciate Josiah Alec in the fur coat. Boomer, I'm sure you appreciated that style statement, right?
Oh, I've already been scouting one of those for myself later. I might be breaking one of those out for football season next year. I got a straw boatman hat, and I'm going to find an old 1920s pennant, I think. And that
there
might
you
be
go.
It might be a look next year at a football game. So he said it was only $70 on Amazon, and they've been located. So.
I'm surprised you guys didn't know that I actually already own one of those, along with the high-heeled shoes with the goldfish in them.
That doesn't surprise me.
That doesn't surprise us at all.
I own a powder blue leisure suit with the full collar, everything. I mean,
Rob actually wore that at the high school prom, and we all know that.
And all the disco parties in college that I threw, and I mean, if you went to Sonoma State circa early '90s, I'm telling you were at one of my parties.
Yeah, it's similar to us in Charleston House. I get it. Hey, Honky, speaking of houses, PBA become quite the house for the Huskers, right? The vault is protected this year, and those fans have been a big factor. I mean, to the extent where it kind of feels like the Rutgers game was a good example. I mean, it never felt like we were going to lose that game. We've got it's a complete shift in 1 year where it feels like you just knew they were going to figure out how to win that game. They weren't going to lose at home to Rutgers on senior night or senior day, right? I mean, it's a pretty impressive statement how big of a home field advantage it's become.
Yeah, we tweeted something out about a week before that game when we knew that Tominaga's parents were going to be at it. And every time Tominaga's parents have come to a game, we've just destroyed whoever we played. So it was kind of a, you're in big trouble, Rutgers, but that has become an amazing home court advantage. Yesterday I was walking by there on a nice walk outside and took a photo of it, and I posted that they've had 3 court stormings on this court, and we beat number 1 and number 2 and number 6. Of course, the women's team beat Iowa number 2. And take a bow and take a break for an off season here. PBA, we'll see you next year. They just announced that was 7th nationally, the men's attendance at PBA. Yeah. So again, this is a football school, right? This is not a basketball school, and yet that's the kind of support that Husker Nation gives to our basketball team. We'll see it in baseball. The baseball numbers, how well we fill up Hawks Stadium compared to any other Big Ten school. Husker Nation, take a bow. You got, I mean, we're absolutely amazing what we can do year in and year out, and what a great problem to have. If you're Trev, that all these sports we sell them out. We number 7 nationally, Nebraska basketball in attendance. That's incredible for a program that has never won a game in the tournament, for a program that's still technically, I'm going to move us off the bubble, but we've been on the bubble pretty much the whole season. It wasn't just like, well, if you get to be a top 10 team like Creighton is right now.
Sure.
We're not that. And yet number 7 nationally. That's incredible.
Well, that's because there's nothing else to do in Nebraska, honky.
Well, yeah. Except watch
winners.
It was sarcasm. All right, Dave. It was sarcasm.
Yeah, no, we understand. Yeah, PBA, I think, has become, and the opponents support this, right? I mean, we hear from everyone that comes into the vault that it's a great atmosphere and one of the hardest places to play. We just got a comment there from one of the listeners that they believe Bryce Williams is an NBA player. That's a good point. I don't know if I identified that earlier in the year, but as Bryce has matured and really continued to perform at a high level here, it's interesting. He doesn't get all the minutes that you'd expect, but he does have the skill set that I think he could play in the NBA. I agree with that. Yeah.
See, Dave, that's a discussion. I was having it with a colleague the other day, and I think this could be an interesting. I don't want to move too far past the fact that we have a tournament coming up, and this is the glory of the whole season. It's what's coming up. But if you fast forward past all that and you look at next season, we only lose 3 seniors, one of them being Boogie Coleman, so he didn't really play, but it's Alec and Tominaga. We know those guys are gone. And we've brought in 2 freshmen that are going to be at least taking 2 of those spots. But I think traditionally in a previous era, a Bryce Williams or a Rank Mass, those guys are going pro, as in, Europe, or they're going somewhere and they're making $100,000 somewhere and they're gone. But with NIL, the way it is today, I think there's a great opportunity to at least keep Bryce for another season now, to keep Rank. I mean, these guys are old,
sure.
with COVID years, they're old juniors.
Yeah.
And
what do you think about CJ? Because he walked on Sunday, but he'd have a year of eligibility left, right?
I mean, you just got to, I think you have to look at some of the dollars. If they can make 6 figures, which we have heard certain people, I think Sean Callahan has said that the Husker basketball players make 6 figures here if they're starters at least. And I've heard other people reference that too. We don't, of course, know exact numbers, but I mean, if you're CJ Wilcher, if you're any of those guys, can you make that same amount not playing Husker basketball next year? We've seen it in football where someone like Garrett Nelson chose the pro route, really didn't end up playing or going anywhere last year. He didn't get drafted. And a year later, I don't know what his thoughts are. I don't know if he has ever came out and said, geez, it would have been nice to come back and play one more year. Don't know. But NIL is changing the game for those guys that are kind of tweeners. I could go and play over here, or I know if I come back, if you're Mast and Williams, what an exciting group to come back and play with these guys again and play at PBA in front of the 7th largest audience in the country and actually have some momentum coming into the season. Well, I don't know. I mean, it's enticing, and financially it's they can do okay.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good question. I mean, someone like Rick Mast is interesting as a foreign player. He may have some really strong professional opportunities back in Europe, just because of his reputation and how they probably followed his career over here. But yeah, I mean, I definitely 6 figures is not anything to sneeze at if you don't think you're going to make an NBA team. you probably can make more of that in Europe by maybe a fair amount, but I mean, there's a lot of work and risk reward there. And one more year where you're going to get that type of salary and have the opportunity to play in a big crowd and potentially take this team to new heights. Sure, agree.
Yeah, and they are student athletes too. So another year of going towards a master's or whatever. I mean, some of these guys with COVID, they're in their 6th year. And
Tommy Tuberville would say,
doctorate. Yeah,
I'm pretty sure I graduated college when some of these guys started. So.
Tommy Tuberville says it's a full-time job being a student athlete. So
yeah.
One of the greatest lines of all time.
Yes.
Well,
yes,
Hockey,
it is.
I want to wrap up basketball here, maybe with just a little bit about the state of the program going forward. You just kind of laid out a vision for next year where this team could be very competitive, especially with adding maybe another piece or two, and kind of repeat this or improve upon this success. How much credit do you give to Trev Alberts to being, sticking with Fred, and also Fred having a plan to change the directory of his program when he was asked to do so?
Yeah, I mean, I think you really, to see where we are today, you have to go back a couple of years ago and where we were then. And with basketball and with football, we were struggling. And Trev had a decision to make with both. And really within the same off-season period with football and with basketball, he stuck with his coach. He stuck with Frost, and he stuck with Hoiberg with a plan. You had to have a plan. And there's going to be some changes, but we don't need to just start over from scratch, but what is the plan moving forward? And in basketball, clearly Matt Abdelmassih, he's not here anymore. And the just constant churn of the roster that was going in year 1 and year 2 and year 3. And we had COVID in there, but you can't keep building something like that. And there's a style of play that I think that they've definitely changed up. Hoiberg's gotten so much more involved in the roster building now than he did. I think that's something that he was just handing over to Abdelmassih. But really, this is a tough team. I'll go back to what I said earlier, the way you see Alec and Fred's son, Sam, jumping on the floor and going for loose balls and everything. It's a team that Nebraskans can really get behind. They're fun to watch. They're hard-nosed and everything. And, again, it's without the 5-star talent, which we have had. It's without that NBA talent that we've had. So, really, to your point there, Dave, about kind of addressing where we're at, it all goes back to that decision that Trev made. It could have been very easy to fire Fred 3 years ago, 2 years ago. Could have been very easy. The record was easy to do it. But there's a lot of things that Trev wanted to see them make some changes. Let's not go fire another coach and add another $20 million to the dead money pool. Let's work through these challenges, and if we come out on the other end, as we are starting to do now look at this. Go and win a game here in the NCAA tournament. Go win a game as an 8 seed, to your point, Dave. And now Fred's name, he's coach of the year, this or that, and where's Fred going to go? Fred's going to leave Nebraska because he'll go somewhere else. He's going to be a hot name. Well, I think that what Trev did built a lot of trust with Fred.
A lot of equity in that relationship right now.
That equity. Yeah, it's outstanding what he built up there. And back to the NIL and number 7 in the country with PBA, you also have some pretty damn good resources here. Yeah, and the issues that we had back in 10, 12, 13 years ago with, when we were in the Big 12, and we were the only school that didn't have a practice facility and all that. We used to have, there was built-in excuses why we weren't good. There's none of those now.
Yeah.
I mean, you still have a great practice facility. You still have PBA. You have everything, available to you. The one thing we haven't had are expectations. And this year there were no expectations. And now all of a sudden there kind of are. It would be great to go and win a game in the NCAA tournament, get that monkey off the back. And I would love to come into next season with Rank back, with Bryce Williams back, with Wilcher back, NIL flowing to help with all that. Have all these guys back and now actually have some expectations coming into the season. We've already won a game in the NCAA tournament. This is a Sweet 16 team. Like, boy, what an evolution that could be.
Sure.
But get there first, right?
Yeah. I mean, it can only help the recruiting process, which is still, the churn has slowed down dramatically, but there's still going to be some transfer additions or some young players that are going to make contributions. Yeah, Hunk.
Think about that too. A year ago, Derek Walker is the reason that we have rank masked. They were able to show video of this is how we want the big to play, and Mask can look at that and go, yeah, I can do that. And think of that successful offseason a year ago of the portal, bringing in Alec and Mast and Williams, all successful guys here. Yeah. With a year now, this year, I don't know how much we have to hit the portal. Again, we're losing only 3 seniors, and we have 2 freshman guys coming in, taking 2 of those spots. So really, on paper, at least, there's only 1 position. Now, I don't know, again, with NIL, can we get into the football thing of having, bringing in 1 or 2 extra players? I have no idea how the roster management of that will work out. But if they do hit the portal, we have some really good demonstrated success here of bringing in some guys that have become really big players for us, that were mid-major guys like Williams and Mass. Well, I guess all of them, Alec too. Maybe that's a route that we go and bring in guys that have been playing for 3-4 years and have a lot of basketball under them.
Yeah. And I would say that, the offense that we've seen this year is actually pretty much spot on what I thought we'd eventually see with the Hoiberg offense with that 5 out, right? Having Rick Mass be able to hit a 3, can distribute the ball from the post, can occasionally bring it up, all that type of stuff. The difference this year and starting last year was that defense and the mentality that Sam Hoiberg and guys like Alec have brought to the team. And that's when this team is really playing at a high level, is when that defense is playing at a high level. And we've seen games this year where it fell off, right? The first Wisconsin game, not a good example of what we want to see. But there's other games where that defense is on point and the hustle is there, and then the offense follows it, right? And so that's the recipe for Fred's success here going forward, I think. Yeah,
and we've played enough games now where enough guys have been shut down or somebody else has stepped up. CJ Wilcher has had games where he's just blown up, but then and then I go back to like the Creighton loss, and that was the only home loss of the season. Boy, we got blown out. And how did that happen? And what could we do different? How do we make sure that doesn't happen on a one-off in the tournament? And I think that was a game where we were trying to match a team that was really hot from the threes in the first half, and we weren't matching them 1-for-1, and we were pretty cold there. And one of the things that we've really gotten better with as the season has gone on is when teams are pressing us, or if they've really moved their defense out to the 3-point line. I mean, there are cutters. This is where you're seeing, Casey, cut to the rim, and we're getting some easier layups and stuff when teams really come out on us. And so, we are countering teams there. But my biggest concern right now, take the dump the Kool-Aid out for a second. My biggest concern with this team is the same thing I would go back to our probably the best team we ever had, the 90-91 team, was it simply has never been there before. And you're not allowed to have one night off. Are we experienced enough? I know some guys have played in the NCAA tournament, Mast has, and I don't know if Alec has been there or not in the past. I'm not sure if Williams did with Charlotte, but this is, you can't have a bad night. I mean, I really hope these guys come out sharp in the Big Ten tournament, because at least that's going to have that tournament feel. Because all it takes is one bad night and your season's over. And we learned that in 91 as a 3 seed. You just can't have that. That team was good enough talented enough to be a Final Four team, for Cripe's sakes, but they couldn't get through the first round. And that's something that John Beeline, he mentioned that on BTN, and I agree with him. He's like, this is a team that's never experienced it. That could be their biggest, obstacle if they can get through it. I mean, back to your point, Dave, about us being an 8 or 9 seed. If we go out in the first round and play really well and beat whoever the opponent is, and now you're the 1 seed, you're not Purdue, it would be somebody else, but you're Houston, you're seeing Nebraska, who's on this good streak going against them. I don't think they love seeing that either. I mean, I think we'd be a tough out. So take it for what it's worth.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree.
Screw it. Honky's got me convinced we're winning the national championship. Hey guys, before we move on after this too, I just want to make sure that we recognize our sponsors, Alumni Hall, 2 locations in Lincoln, downtown Lincoln, as well as
South Point
South Point
Pavilion.
Pavilions. I said I got there. South Point Pavilion. Sorry, my brain's not operational at 9:30 at night anymore these days. And of course, our good friends over there, Shane and Laura over at Smack and Smooch, who do all of our Redcast apparel for us and have the Redcast store. If you scan the QR code that's on your screen right now, it will take you right there. And they can pretty much make you anything Redcast on any piece of clothing that you'd like. So check them out.
Yeah, go to the
All
QR code. Yeah, all 200 plus of you watching right now, go to that QR code after this show and
Right.
get yourself some
Don't leave
Redcast gear. That's right.
That's right. All right, guys, we ready to talk a little baseball?
Let's do it.
All right. Let's go around the Van Horn and talk all things Husker baseball. And I just checked, we're actually slipping down to 6 in the RPI, so I don't know what's going on there, guys.
Shut the season down, Dave. We're done. Yeah.
That's it.
But we are 7-3 with
We are
2
locked
series.
for a tournament team right now.
Absolutely. I was looking at the entire Big Ten RPI, and we've got tons of quality wins out there. And so we should easily finish at an extremely high RPI and likely are hosting a regional according to the current standings. We do have a long ways to go. About 1/5 of the season is over so far, but the first couple of weeks have turned out pretty well. 1-2 in that first week with a couple tough losses, and then sweeps a sweep last week of Charleston and taking 3 of 4 from Grand Canyon, I believe, right? So that gets us 7-3.
The hype for Nebraska baseball right now is real too. So I went on the site the other day to buy some tickets for Honky and I to attend the baseball game on the day of the spring game, and then also against Iowa. Yeah, and on the Friday night before. The Friday night before was basically all sold out, except I was able to get us 4 club tickets together. And Marty, if you are still watching, I would love it if you would join us. Bring Beth out, and we can the 4 of us can go to the game together. You guys would be the best dates that I've had outside of my wife in the last 10 years. But yeah, it's really exciting. And then for Saturday's game, all that was left was some GA, and they were actually really limited GA tickets. So we're
looking at a bunch of Iowa fans trying to invade us.
From Council Bluffs or something like that. Is that
Iowa does have a good baseball team this year.
Yeah, they do.
Did make the tournament
really
last year. So
yeah, Caitlin Clark's cousin's on the baseball team, so probably that affected. I have no.
Well, flopping doesn't help.
I was going to say you can't flop in baseball, so yeah.
Boomer, they are coming home. I don't know what the weather looks like this weekend, but they do have a 3-game set versus the Jaguars of South Alabama, right?
Jaguars.
Yeah, that's
Are you
correct.
British or something?
It's not the greatest baseball weather, but it's feasible.
So they're going to play. I guess the bottom line. Are they playing?
Yeah, it'll be playable. I don't foresee any weather issues here, the next few days. So I think that'll be good. And again, it's just one of those challenges with being a northern team trying to play baseball, just with the stupid start to the schedule, which they really need to adjust. They need to move this back.
Yeah.
Just in the grand scheme of sports in general, but
yeah,
we'll get there.
Yeah.
So.
Or build a
dome.
Build a
this
dome in
offseason
Lincoln.
has been great. I will say that. So
yeah, we need to build a dome in Lincoln. That's all it comes down to.
Sure. Just like Las Vegas.
Absolutely.
South Alabama will probably struggle with any sort of cooler conditions than us. So I say that's probably a good sign, as long as we're still playing those games. Their RPI is also in the top 100, and then we go a mid-season.
Ours is top 10, Dave.
Well, and part of that, the RPI too. You think about it, it is. I mean, it goes hand in hand with the fact that we play because of these stupid scheduling in February, which we should not be playing baseball yet. But because we do, all of our games are going to be on the road. If you have any success early, which in previous years we've started off poorly,
sometimes 7 or some horrible thing.
Yeah. But when you start off 7-3 and none of the games are at home, it's going to lead to a good RPI, almost regardless of who you're playing. And not that we've been playing bad teams, but it just so any early success. But now we're coming home, and I was thinking about it was the night that we played OU. Or the game that we played OU, and the night before they played top 10 Tennessee, beat them, but it was a late night game. And I remember it went late, it went in the late innings. And I remember some of the OU fans were thinking they were going to lose because we were up for quite a while. And on social media, they're like, yeah, but this was a late game, and they're throwing out the excuses. And I'm like, BS. No team from Oklahoma or South or anything should ever, you get no excuses in baseball playing a Northern team in February. It just doesn't happen. So, I don't care what advantage we get, but this is really going to be a tough weekend. Like tomorrow's like 45 degrees. They might, I don't know if they're going to try to do a doubleheader on Saturday if it doesn't happen. Hopefully it can happen tomorrow, but these are just not good baseball conditions.
Yeah.
Oh, that's balmy for the Big Ten. Come on, enjoy it.
Yeah.
I want to be clear to the listeners out there. We're just having fun with the RPI thing because, RPI this early in the season is virtually worthless.
Yes.
The Big Ten has had some success. It's not just Nebraska that's got winning records on these almost all road early non-con games. So that does actually bode well because it does kind of become a little bit, just a self-serving cycle there. If a bunch of Big Ten teams have some good non-con records, then we're going to bring better RPIs into the Big Ten to begin with. And thus those then will just, continue to wash and rinse and repeat. And you're going to have some decent numbers there. So that's a good sign, but we're probably at least a month away before that RPI actually means anything.
Speak for yourself, Dave, because we're winning a national We're winning a national championship in track. We're winning a national championship in basketball. We're about to win a national championship in football. Sky is the limit for Nebraska sports right now.
It's beach volleyball season. So.
Beach volleyball season. Volleyball, we're winning a national championship. And for those women's basketball.
And for those Redcasters, if you weren't paying attention, we were at least briefly number one over the weekend in RPI. But yeah, I think I had read somewhere, I think everyone in the Big Ten right now is at least in the top 150 in RPI. Yeah.
And most are in the top 100.
So absolutely to your point, Dave, it's that's probably as important as a thing to keep an eye on as just where Nebraska is where are all those other schools that are going to be playing each other. And it's that whole, system of we play them and they play us. And if everyone kind of stays up at, high up there, then you kind of get into where you think of the net rankings that we've been talking about with Wisconsin and Michigan State. Then you build yourself up to a point where it's like, well, you can lose 3 in a row and you barely drop. If all your opponents suck, then, you're going to fall a lot, on a midweek loss or whatever. So as long as the Big Ten, this is a way too early discussion too, and we can do this, at a later point, but it'd be interesting to hear like what kind of a seed conference is this going to be? Is this a 2 seed, a 3 seed, a 4, 5? Sure. How many, the Big Ten was doing really well a few years ago, right before COVID, of starting to send 4 teams or so to the postseason. And then it kind of took a turn back the other way. So maybe this is a good sign. Hopefully it's a good sign that the conference is starting to grow that again. And right in time as we're adding, next year, the USCs and UCLAs and stuff to it.
Yeah. I believe last year, Iowa and Maryland made it for certain. Maybe we had a third team, but Iowa probably, could have advanced into the super regionals, and they brought a lot back. So I think it could be a decent year for the Big Ten, and hopefully Nebraska is part of that conversation. I would, we'll take a deeper dive on baseball as the season progresses. I do think that we do have a new assistant coach on that staff. Rob Childress is a full-time pitching coach, and we've already seen the results, I believe, with some of the outcomes of these games with both starting pitching. And, there was a few hiccups there along the way, but even the relief staff and Drew Christo in particular has given us 2 6-inning plus starts, and looks like his stuff is really good. And he's always had an immense amount of talent. So it's exciting to see that.
So, Dave, he's been starting, like we've been playing these 4-game weekends, and he's been starting on Thursday. What does that mean? Is it like, so this weekend we're not going to play a 4-game series? Is he just not a starter Friday through Sunday, or?
Yeah, I think we're early enough. We're early enough in the season that the rotation is still kind of malleable. But as of today, I think that tells you that he'd be their midweek starter on the Wednesday game, for example.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean that he can't work himself into that rotation relatively quick, even before conference play, right?
Well, and if he is only, and I say that in quotation marks, if he's only a midweek starter, we learned last season the importance of midweek games and how valuable that is. So if that's ends up being his role and he's giving us 6+ innings on a Wednesday night, and that's all he does for this entire season, and he's really good at it, that could be the difference too. Because for the Redcasters that forget, last year we didn't have a terrible conference record, but it was really all those midweek losses that added up to killing us and not getting us into the regionals.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely killed our RPI and strength of schedule. We kept on losing to Omaha and North Dakota and whatever, right? And it's just like you just can't keep on doing that. First opportunity, if he does have that midweek role, will be not this weekend, obviously, but the following week they go down to Wichita, and Wichita actually right now looks like they might be okay. So that would be a big opportunity to get another road victory essentially on that resume.
I was doing a little Google Earth the other day, and right across the street from the Wichita Shockers baseball stadium.
I've been down there, yeah.
That's right where the Pizza Hut Museum is. That was the original Pizza Hut. It's right there. And
it's a little shack. It's very small. The original actual Pizza Hut right there.
I know we were taking Kathy for your next vacation. Yeah, right there. There it is.
Hey, I
know we couldn't hit prices right, but you're going to see the Pizza Hut Museum, honey.
I saw 311 in Wichita. This is a nice little town.
Yeah. It is one of the largest college baseball stadiums. I mean, it's big, right? They have like maybe 8,000 or 9,000. And they did build a brand new basketball arena down there for the Shockers in downtown Wichita, I believe. So,
it's a nice little.
Hey, Rob, can you get some sponsorship from the Wichita Tourism Bureau or anything like that?
I mean, I could try. I mean, do we have a big Redcast following? And
give them a call.
Kansas?
It can't hurt.
Southern Kansas.
It can't hurt. I'll let you know how all my other meetings this week go for the Redcast and everything.
All right, that sounds good. All right, guys. Anything else on baseball?
No, I think we knocked it out of the park.
All right, let's put on our scarlet-colored glasses just for a few minutes. We can't do a show without talking football for a little bit, right, guys? And there was some significant rule changes, Boomer, that came through in the last week or so, including the addition, bit of a surprise, but maybe we saw it coming, of a 2-minute warning into college football. And then the electrification of the quarterbacks' helmets, having audio being pumped in there so the offensive coordinator or coach can speak to the quarterback up to, I believe, 15 seconds before the end of the clock. What do you think here?
Yeah, that's correct. Now, these aren't officially accepted yet. The Rules Committee, I think, meets sometime in mid-April to finalize these sort of things and accept them or not. So it's still kind of up in the air whether these things are fully going to happen or not, but I'd be stunned if they'd be proposed and not happen. But, first off, with the 2-minute warning, it's just kind of amusing that it's, after all the talk last year of how we need to speed the game up, and now let's find a way to guarantee more commercials into the entire college sports. And I'm not a big 2-minute warning guy in the NFL. I mean, I don't see the need of it in college football.
Let's change the dynamics of the end of the half a little bit.
It does. And I guess for some coaches, maybe it's good. We comment all the time about how coaches need, clock management coordinators, and here you go. Here's a free timeout. So whatever,
I mean,
you've got that now. So
I put my opinion out there, and it's basically, look, college football is basically the minor league system for the NFL. So, whatever, make it as close to it as possible, and let's go.
And it's becoming that more and more, which for good or ill, Rob.
Yeah. I regardless of how you feel about whether it's, you like it or not, it's a fact. So, I mean, there's not really much you could say. Really. And I don't even know if I like it or if I don't. I haven't decided yet because I haven't seen him play with it, other than I know from the NFL what it is and what I'm used to. And I mean, whatever, just play some football.
I like it only in the sense that a year ago, since they took away the free timeout essentially after getting the first down, then I like this. At the end of the game, it gives you one more way to come back. I would prefer the old rules of no 2-minute warning and just give us the stops after each first down. But
agreed.
To Boomer's point, that was a real concern, a real phony baloney concern that we don't want to slow down games, and really we know what it's about.
To that point, Honky, the best explanation of this I've heard was from Mitch Sherman, I believe, on one of the radio shows, and he was talking about how he's talked to a bunch of the rules officials and whatnot, and from a flow of the game standpoint, one of the criticisms, maybe in particular last year, but in past years college football, is that there's a lot of early TV timeouts in the first half because they want to pack those all in there because they don't know if they're going to get them at the end of the game, just because of or even end of a half, because just the clock management is different than in the NFL, which is far more predictable. And so he made the case, or at least they were making the case to him, that by having that guaranteed TV timeout at the 2-minute warning in both halves, they may not have to feel like they need to push quite as much into the first half, and it might actually have a better flow of the game. I'll be very interested to see if that comes out that way.
Hey, it makes sense. I mean, at some point, just be transparent about it. I mean, I think that's the thing. Boomer's point's well taken. A year ago, this was about not speeding up the game. So then we turn around and we add something that nobody was asking for. But I'm fine with it. The helmet.
I guess the point there really quick. I want to talk about the helmet thing, but I guess the point there again is that I think maybe their argument is it's not going to actually add an additional TV timeout. They're just going to be able to save one where they would have used it earlier, and they know they're going to get that one guaranteed at the end of each half.
We'll see what happens with that. And the just random aside is, how do sports like soccer and Australian rules football make money where they don't have these guaranteed timeouts? It just never ceases to amaze me.
Start throwing logo.
Yeah, this is why they have everything on their shirts.
Yeah,
they constantly.
I'd be okay with that trade.
Changing.
So some crap in the uniforms. Let's play the games.
Yeah. They do have the.
I'm not arguing with you on that one, Boomer.
The pre and post games are huge, but we already have that. But it's mostly the logos and all the board advertising around the soccer field. Yeah. Okay, let's talk about the helmets a little bit and how that might help Dylan Raiola in his first year in college football. I mean, you feel
although
like
I have seen Michigan has been promoting or advertising for a radio guy, and they're trying to hire. So maybe you're good at that right now. Yeah.
I was going to say this is deemed Connor Stallion's job worthless if we're going to do this, but no, this is long overdue, and really college football was about the last one to bring the technology in. Obviously the pros have been doing it forever, but now you're seeing it at high school levels, and somehow it kind of jumped college. So it'll be good to be able to have that conversation. And I think your point there, Dave, strategically with Nebraska, if there's ever a year where this really could be helpful, it's a year where you have two true freshmen at quarterback are vying for meaningful playing time, if not starting positions. And to be able to have that kind of ability to talk with the coach or the coordinator. I don't know who would be on the headset with them. Would it be Rule?
The OC. Typically the play caller, actually.
Okay. So to have, Satterfield, I suppose, or again, is it Satterfield? Is it Glenn Thomas? I don't know how they.
It's the person calling the plays. I mean, that's how they're going to get the plays in. So I don't think you'd want to add an additional leg to that conversation. If you can have your OC directly talking to your quarterback, opposed to having someone as a middleman.
Yeah. Okay. So Satterfield up in the box, which that's even a whole conversation by itself. We're going to have a season where Satterfield's going to be up there where the OC should be. Remember last year, he spent about the first 8-9 games on the sideline so that he could talk with the quarterback as he was coming off the field. Mm-hmm. Now you're going to have your quarterback's coach, Thomas, on the sideline. You're going to have Satterfield up in the box calling plays where he should be. And now he's going to be able to call those plays directly into the headset of the quarterback on the field. I mean, that's a significant difference from in a lot of ways from what we had last year. So hopefully just from a communication and getting the play out there, and making sure, I'm sure you can say more than the play. You can also say, hey, read this or throw it to this guy, or, we're trying to hit Malachi on a fade, whatever it is. You can say that and tell the how did the pros work? Does it turn off like a second or two before the play?
It's 15 seconds before the end of the clock, I believe, or something like that. Is that right, Boomer? Or when the play's done?
Yeah.
This would have been a great opportunity to bring someone like Casey Thompson back. He wants to be a coach anyway. Let him call the plays for us.
They didn't want him though. I don't know why.
There's been some. Story. I've heard some talk about why they didn't want him, and we don't.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's show. But we'll discuss that in the summertime round.
But yeah, I always. Yeah, I just always wondered when they would shut if I was the play caller, like if you didn't shut it off, like I would be so annoying to the player during the play. Like it would not be helpful to have
you
that
leave me
going in.
alone. I'm snapping the ball.
Coach, just shut up.
Pitch it.
Yeah. Option, run, pitch.
Oh my god, that'd be hilarious.
Geez. The same reason we don't live stream, shows during a game would be why.
Yeah,
that would not be a good thing for me as the OC.
You'd be swearing as
it
well.
would be funny though. Yeah. And I know they're also talking about using tablets, on the sidelines, in games. I can't see any reason that's not going to be approved. So a lot of people are going to say, well, it's a money issue, but good Lord. I mean, football and money these days.
I've got a tablet upstairs. My kids can loan them probably.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, everyone can say that. So, yep. So we're good there. So.
All right, guys. That's a good little football chatter. I would not have to, dwell on football because we have basketball and baseball to talk about. But spring ball will be here in a few weeks, and we'll be able to take a deeper dive once that actually starts to hit the ground. All right, you guys ready for some parting shots?
Let's do it.
All right, let's get that loaded up. And let's start with Rob. I just shut him down. I apologize, Rob, but now the forum is yours.
Well, first off, I would just like to thank all of the people that came and watched our show tonight. I'm not quite sure exactly how this works now that we've been able to add Twitter to the streams, but it sure looks like our viewership has gone up. So I'd like to thank everyone for joining us tonight, and for those of us out there that supported me, because obviously Dave doesn't. So
it's probably because we have increased viewership because more people have aloe fiber in their homes and they can watch us.
In the state of Nebraska, that is more than likely true, especially out there in western Nebraska. But Dave, thank you for the aloe pitch, because I wasn't even going to do that tonight. So.
You already did it a couple times earlier, Rob. It's okay.
I didn't say anything about aloe earlier. Not once. Not tonight. You can go back and listen to the show. But what I was going to say is that I will be headed out to Vegas this weekend for 311 days. And
nice.
If there are any Redcasters that are going to be out there, hit me up, drop into my DM, shoot me at me on Twitter or whatever. Let me know where you're at. I'd love to meet up with you and hang out, because I know it sounds crazy, but I'm actually going to try to do a sober weekend so that I can enjoy the Monday. I'm going to the Punk Rock Museum out there, which is going to be a pretty good time. And I'm going to get a Ska Man tattoo from the band. I know that Boomer here knows, but the band Operation Ivy, they're Ska Man. I'm getting that tattoo.
Are you going to get
the Punk Rock Museum?
Are you getting a Kool-Aid tattoo? You said you were going to do that.
So when I went and got some work done about 3 weeks ago, I know this is a long parting shot, Dave, but you're just going to have to chill. All right. When I went and got a couple of tattoos about 3 weeks ago, my tattoo artist had this art from this artist up on his wall, and it is like a Kool-Aid guy sitting in an electric chair about to get electrocuted. And I thought, put the N on there, pack some red in that Kool-Aid and throw that sucker somewhere on my body. And honestly, I'm considering it, Hunky, to answer your question. Yeah, I'm thinking about maybe putting it on my right calf, because the Ska Man's going to be on my left calf. So, yeah, that would be pretty cool, actually.
Redcasters, you can tell us which calf he should put it on.
All right, let's take advantage of this break to throw it to Boomer. What's your parting shot?
Got a couple quick ones. Rob handled the punk rock theme very well. I guess we'll skip that. For our other listeners, our other passion on the Redcast is obviously Australian rules football. That kicks off as early as tomorrow. Sydney and Melbourne are kicking off, so get into that as soon as you can. Pick a team, enjoy. It's a fun sport to watch and enjoy it. And I did want to give another shout out. I know we'd put this out on the Redcast Twitter feed a couple days ago, but the other passion of the Redcast is obviously pro wrestling, and one of the great icons of pro wrestling, Sting, wrestled his last match this last weekend.
Oh wow!
He's a guy that's been wrestling since I think 1985 was his first match, and he's from Omaha. He was born in Omaha originally, so he's a Nebraska native. to some degree or another. And he's been just an icon of wrestling for as long as basically I can ever remember watching the sport. Yep. It's always been something I've enjoyed, and I know some of the other Redcasters have watched it and enjoyed it. And we've gotten almost 40 years out of him, and just brought a lot of great memories to it. And for those of us kind of our age, we were we were in college during the the peak of probably wrestling in the Monday Night Wars, with him on WCW, and he gave a lot of entertainment to a lot of people. And just want to give a shout out to him again, and just thanks for everything you did, Sting, and enjoy your retirement.
I loved him in the Police.
That's fair.
Yeah, very fair,
especially in 1985.
All right, Honky, get us out of here, man.
We talked a little bit earlier about how this has been a great offseason for football in the sense that we haven't had to talk about football every second. And where we have the women's basketball tournament is starting up this week, and Nebraska has a one-day bye. They were one spot away from having the 2-day bye in basketball as well. I think we would have been the only school to have both teams making the double bye, but assuming, of course, that men's basketball is going to make it. But it's great to see these other sports gaining this kind of traction, having this kind of fan following, and really having some success there. So, women's basketball, men's basketball, baseball out there with the start that they're having. It's at the end of the day, I think it's benefiting football as well by taking some of the, just the constant fishbowl attention off. I mean, we're still a football podcast, and there's still plenty of football news and people trying to, watch every football clip that comes out on social media and draw what they can from it. But at the end of the day, it's great to see these other sports take off too. And so when the spring game does happen there in late April, that's a big weekend there's going to be softball and baseball as well. So it can be a real great Husker weekend. One thing I want to say that came out today, and this is with baseball, they did announce the TV schedule that's actually going to be on regular televised TV, not streaming. There's 8 games so far, starting on April 6th against Ohio State, and then all the way through May 12th against Indiana. And those games are either on Nebraska Public Media or they're on BTN. It looks like there's 3 BTN and 4 BTN and 4 MPM games. So that's out there on social media. They're games that start in April and go through May. But it's good. If you really want to watch Husker baseball, you're going to want to get BTN Plus. I don't know if they're on Peacock or anything, but BTN Plus for sure. That's going to be the way to watch as many of the baseball games as you can. So again, love where we're at right now. We're getting multiple programs having some success here. We're getting into the postseason with both basketball teams. Things are looking up. Go Big Red.
Absolutely. All right, guys. That was a fun show, a little impromptu, but appreciate everyone that tuned in to watch us and listen on all of your favorite podcasting devices. For now, let's call that another Go Big Redcast.
Go Big Red.
GBR.
A Herd at Sports Network production.